Hello, everyone. It's Lindsay Bergevin with the Quilters Planner, and today we are talking with Kirsty Cleverly, who designed our block for April as the crow flies. And I'm so excited to sit down with her today and chat all things quilting and planner and cats and anything else that comes up. She's got two cute cats. Now let's talk about your cats for a sec. Tell me what kind of cats they are.
They're Burmese, and we've got a boy who's the same colour as me, pretty much. He's orange, so we've got some solidarity with the redheads in the house. And his name is Tigger, named after the here he is. Named after the Tigger from Winnie the Pooh, who's also orange. And then we've got a girl who's actually his half sister, and she's a dark chocolate brown. And her name's Lulu, and she's quite evil, but absolutely adorable. And this guy's just this sort of the oaf who just really wants to follow you and get scratches, and if you sneeze he'll like meow at you and be angry that you sneezed and things like that. So they've definitely got their personalities, and they're I've got 4 kids. Well, my husband and we have 4 kids, and the kids are all over them just all day long. So these cats put up with a lot. They just get cuddled within an inch of their life. So
yeah, that's
pretty. They're pretty easy breezy, and but they're a lot of fun. And they love quilts.
I was going to say, do they love to come and sit on your quilts and check out what you're doing?
They do. Basting is very hard because I baste on the floor. I wish I could figure out how to do that awesome basting on a table thing, but it just doesn't really work for me. So I'm just do the old traditional rolling around on the floor with it, and they just love that. And unfortunately, these cats, because we've had cats before, and these ones chew the batting. If I leave it out, they will actually bite into it and then spit it. They don't eat it. I think it must be a texture thing. So the first time I discovered it, I'd sort of laid all my 3 layers out and put it all out. And then I came back in the morning. I'm like, what has happened here? And they're like all these bite marks, scallops all the way around. Thankfully, they didn't get into it was on the edges. It was the bit past. But I was like, oh, I better remember that. So now I can't leave any batting out at all. Even scraps, if I left them in my little scrap thing, I'd come out and they'd be all over the room. So something about the texture of that, they just love it. Yeah, very strange.
That's crazy. Well, I love to talk about cats. I used to have cats. I don't right now, but maybe someday. Okay, but let's talk a little bit about your block and you and your quilting style, and then we could talk about the planner and anyway, all sorts of fun stuff. So I have the colorway from the sampler quilt here that has our cool color. Well,
it's beautiful colors. I love it. Very ocean,
cool color gradient over.
Yeah.
And you have your scrappy. Now I want you to go through your scrappy and talk to me how you decided the color placement on that.
Well, I went traditional rainbow. And I guess the biggest question is because, obviously the center one, you can easily get your line up in there from, red, orange, yellow and so on. But then you've got some decisions to make with the corner arrows, what you want to do. So for me, I let my scraps speak to me, and they said, your purple bag is about to explode. So that's why I decided that I would make, so I chose those colours on the outside first, and then I reverse engineered it so that the rest were in the central diagonal. So that's how mine came to be. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. And I love to see the comparison of the scrappy versus the solids. It kind of just has a little bit more movement, in my opinion, because of the activity that the prints give. I think that's really fun.
And I guess you do need to choose, like I was very cognizant that I chose small scale prints. I think you just, with the scale of the block and that there's so much going on as it is, you really want to, when you first look at it, you want it to read as a solid, even though it's not a solid, if you know what I mean, so that it's not not too busy, and your brain's not trying to figure out, well, hang on, is that, what shape is that? You know, you sort of want those edges to be nice and defined. And
Yeah. Yeah, that's so great. And I love how you know, I can kind of point towards the one in the back that we sewed together. I love how it has the like the extra arrows. A lot of the other ones are either like an overall or just like a single direction, but the extra layer I think adds some extra interest too. So anyway, it's a fun addition to our quilt, and I'm very excited to have everybody sew it up in the month of April. And the other great thing is so easy. Like sometimes I'm up for a challenge, and sometimes I just want to be able to cut and sew and just like get into the groove. And I feel like this quilt is definitely one that
for sure
is super approachable. So that being said, that doesn't mean if it's simple, it's going to be easy. Like there's still, you got to be precise, right? Like that's why we're quilters. So give us a little bit of tips on when you made this. What did you find was very important to keep in mind?
Well, because there are quite a few seams in the block with all those little pieces, so and they're not an even number of seams or equal, so the seams across this way are not the same number as this way. So if your seam is not exact, then you will get, you know, some issues there. So it is important to have that quality 1/4 inch seam or scant, whichever you prefer. And another thing I found is just making sure when you cut those little pieces, they are accurate. So when I first started quilting, no one told me that the print, your cutting mat is printed, but obviously your ruler is super duper precise. And I would just use the cutting mat to kind of cut my pieces to measure with. And then I was talking to someone and they said, oh no, you should really use the ruler. That's the precise thing. So I think even though it's a small difference, that might not make an issue over a larger quilt, because that block just has so many seams in it. You just want those pieces to be exact when you cut them, and you want your seam to be really good when you put them all together. But if you don't have that, you can just wrangle. I'm a big wrangler. I'm like, oh man, I'm not sewing that again. You know, it's like I will make this fit. Bring on the pins.
There's
Here we go.
There's a little bit of that, I think, when every quilt we make. But I will say that in the past, I remember sewing a block that had a lot of seams, and even just being like 1 or 2 threads of the fabric smaller, when you add it up across 8 or 9 seams, like that's like 1/2 inch, you know, like it really adds up. And so being able to test your seam allowance is important. And that's why we have that tip as well, as like, sew a couple together, measure it first with some scraps. Because that's a big deal. So, but other than that, vertical row assembly, which I think is also very interesting. And I always like to check with each of my designers, are you a press seams open or press seams to the side?
Wherever possible, I do press to the side.
There you go.
And it's not a religious thing for me. Like some people are very fervent about it, but for me, it's because I'm lazy, and it's a lot quicker to press to the side than to press open. But I mean, sometimes you do have to press open. You know, the block it's just not going to sit nicely if you don't do that. So
and so Shelly, my sampler sewer, she did the individual blocks, and then I sewed the top together. But one thing that I always love doing, and she did this after I'm looking at this a little closer, she pressed in opposite directions. And I can't remember if you have that as a tip or not, but so like one seam, she pressed all of the seams this way, right? And then the next one was all this way, so that when you do run into those situations where you have a meeting between the rows, they can nestle together and they're always going to line up. And when I learned that tip years ago, when I first started sewing and quilting, I was like, oh my gosh, game changer.
So nice. It just fits just so, and it's so satisfying to just have it all, you know, and then when you go and sew that line, they all nestle in, and you're like, yeah, this is how it's supposed to be.
Yes. Yeah, and the other beautiful part is like, even if say you have like one that lines up here and the one that lines up like on the next block, like if you're just sewing regular squares together, I like to do a lot of like simple HSDs, right?
Mhm.
Even if like maybe one block is not trimmed down to exactly the same right size, but if you have seams that you can nest, you can like kind of stretch one a little bit longer and make one up a little bit
You're
fit.
wrangling, you can wrangle, it's
Yeah,
good.
you can still make
Yeah,
that work, and then it just all flattens out once you steam it up. So
yeah.
anyway,
And if not, then you just quilt it, and then it's
quilt
all
it.
good.
It all disappears in the quilting.
Yep, yeah, quilt it, and then if that doesn't work, you wash it.
Yes,
And then it definitely works.
exactly. Now, I'm gonna pick your brain here. I want you to imagine that you made a whole quilt of this.
Oh, yes.
Just using this as like the base block for a quilt. What type of quilting would you start to think about if you had a whole quilt made up of this?
Yes, I would definitely go straight line quilting, because anything with the corners like that, I just love it, because you can, oh, here's the other one. There she is.
Hi.
She's come say hello as well. I really love straight line quilting on things with squares where you don't need to draw lots of lines, because you've got all those intersections and you can just eye it off and draw. I'd probably do a crosshatch, just eyeing off all the corners. And it's such a relaxing way to quilt, because you're not sort of, you know, I've got to stop and pull it out and draw lines and make sure nothing's shifted, and then I've got to roll it all back up and then go back to the machine. It's just you use intersections as guide, and those won't be dead straight. They will, you know, there'll be a little bit of whatever mass when you stand back and look at it. It just looks really effective. It looks really good, and it's a fun way to quilt. It's just really enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah. And I
And I love the straight lines. I just love them.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like doing I noticed lately when I've been doing some smaller ones, I'll do straight lines on my domestic with my walking foot added, but I'll do a little tug, make a little wave. And like just the random improv aspect of that on, adding that a little bit extra wave to my line. Anyway, I love experimenting with all of that.
It's good fun.
Yeah, for sure. I also, you had mentioned in your response to your interviews that we're going to put up on our blog that this is one of your favorite tools, and the hair marker.
Yeah.
And I have to mention that like I use this so much, not just for like marking things on piecing, but for the actual quilting process too. Like if I do need to go in and mark one key line that I'm then working off a specific, my foot distance away, this is such a great option. So
it really is. Yeah.
You recommended that tool as well. Yeah, I think I'm going to get one for my son. He loves to do origami, and bone folders are very expensive, but this would totally work.
It would do the same, and it's got sort of, because the handle's got a softer, like if the business end is too sharp, he could use the handle as well to do a softer press.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, very good.
All right, cool. Okay, so I do want to quickly mention that you graciously offered a 20% off coupon for planner users who want to go shop in your shop. I checked out your shop this morning. You really have been quite prolific in all of your patterns.
Oh,
I love it.
That's been a lot of years to make all those. So
sure. And believe me, I've worked, my previous life before really diving in to after buying the planner. I've been helping quilters with their patterns over the last 15 years. So I know firsthand how much work it is to write it and edit it and illustrate it and lay it out and then proof it again and again. It is a lot of work. And so that really does show that you and all of our designers have been very hard at work over the years designing such beautiful patterns. I have to ask you, do you have a favorite? Is that like picking a favorite child?
Ooh, it is a little. Um, well, my very first pattern was Diamonds in the Deep, and that's pretty much my bestseller. Like, it just went really well from the minute I put it out
Yeah.
there, and so I've always got a real soft spot for that one. And it always amazes me. I always encourage. I have a newsletter, and readers will send me things that they've sewn, and I love that because they just come up with the best ideas of how to, because it's only a 2 fabric, well, it's written as a 2 fabric pattern, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they'll introduce a third, and how they do that, and how they make it scrappy, and how they do all the different things. It's always so much fun to see what they get up to and put their own spin on it. So
Yeah.
that pattern's been really good. But in general, I will say that the one I love the most is normally the one before the one I've just done, because the one I'm in the middle of, I sometimes really hate it. I'm like, I'm so sick of looking at this, and I'm so unsure about, what was I doing here? I'm one of those people that halfway through the process, I'm just like, oh, this was the biggest mistake. I don't know why I'm doing this, and then I'll fight through and get to the end and sew it up, and I'm like, oh, that's really quite nice, actually. And then by the time I'm working on the next one, when I look back at the one, I'm just like, oh yeah, that was good. Let's see if we can
Yeah.
do something that good again.
Yeah.
So
Or
it's
it's one of those like
proximity.
proximity and, hindsight. We're like, oh, that other one was so easy when you've kind of forgotten that it too
Yeah.
took forever.
Yes.
And that's just I got a thread. That's just the reality, of working. I think whether you're writing a pattern or you're just working through a quilt, like you have to get in the weeds sometimes. And
Yeah.
like that's why we have our whip pile, right? Like sometimes you need a break
Yes.
and then you
Yes.
come back to it later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
there's great highs and great lows in creative work, I find, and you've just got to, once you've done it for a while, I think you realize, oh, I'm just having that low moment, and I'll just push
Yeah.
through it, and it'll be good.
Yeah. From a design perspective, do you find yourself gravitating to certain shapes or certain colors or certain elements of design when you're just brainstorming ideas? Or do you kind of
Yeah.
go through phases where you're working, from one to the other? I know, every artist is a little
Yeah.
bit different. But yeah, do you have anything that has kind of ingrained itself in you as something you return to a lot?
I always keep coming back to navy. I really love navy and all of
I
its,
noticed that a lot. You do have a
the
lot of
teals, and I've
lovely
always loved
blues.
navy. Yeah. And sometimes I'm like, God, Kirsty, you just branch out a little, will you? Like, there's lots of, like, Elizabeth Hartman, she always has the most amazing color backgrounds, like something I would never think, oh wow, that just looks so good. I would never have seen that fabric on a swatch and thought, I'm going to use that as my background fabric. So every
Yeah.
now and then I'm like, oh, you should probably stretch out a bit more, Kirsty. But then I'm like, oh, but I just like it so much. It just makes me really happy. But I do, like, I sort of went through a bit of a log cabin phase, and then triangles are always in fashion for me. I just love half square triangles,
Yeah.
and the half rectangle triangles as well, which are a bit trickier,
Yeah.
but awesome. And you can get some really fun shapes with those.
Uh-huh.
So I think triangles are probably a favorite for me, I would say.
And I would also mention just your ability to integrate scraps into a quilt that from really far
Mm,
away looks kind of solid, like you said earlier, reads as a
yes.
solid, but it just adds so much dimension having it be scrappy. And I have to look at your bottomless bear paw. Did I say that name right? Your new
Yes, you got
pattern
that right.
you have
Yep.
hanging up there. I'm assuming all the little hearts on the one with the navy background, those
Yes,
are all little scrappy
they
prints,
are.
right?
Yes.
I love
Yep.
that. Like that's just provides so much freedom for you to be like, I'm gonna pick all of these
Yep.
things, just to mix and match it how you want.
Yeah, exactly. It's and they're with the baby quilt, especially because the block is a smaller block, you can get, like, some people will keep 1 inch scraps. I'm not quite that crazy, but I know there are people out there who love their smaller scraps. So it just gives a chance for you to put those somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's
I
very
love,
satisfying with getting those scraps out and actually making something with them. And you think, oh, wow, I've really made something from nothing. It feels really
right,
good.
right. I also love the variation of the heart versus the square.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
rotated square. Yeah, that's really fun. And like I had mentioned before we started recording, um, the fabric choice makes such a huge difference. And I know that's true of every quilt. Like every
Yeah.
quilt can look completely different based on fabric choice, but I love that
Mm.
you hung up both of these for us to see. Can you
Yeah.
share some of your thoughts on how you chose the colors for each one?
Well, this one was how it started basically, and I had in my mind that I always love those patterns where you get a fat quarter and you cut basically what you need for one block, but then you swap different parts to mix and match your colors across the different blocks. So I knew I kind of wanted to do something like that. And I can't remember why I was interested in the bear paw. Something had happened or I'd seen something and I just thought, oh, I've never done one of those. Let's have a look at it. So once I'd done that, I was like, oh, and I just started listening to Angie Wilson of Gnome Angel. She's got a
Yep.
new podcast about fussy cutting, and I was listening to an episode of that, and I was like, those little square inserts, that's a really good fussy cutting opportunity there, So I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking about that, and I was like, yeah, you could cut little faces and people and whatever, and then I just thought, well, as well as that, I could do a different shape in piece actually, and I was thinking of you could foundation piece, because some of those little blocks that are foundation piece are just beautiful little intricate pieces of art, and this would be like a little picture frame that you put each one in. So, but then I thought, oh well, I could just do a heart as well. That would be, and then I was like, oh, scraps. So, and that was woohoo, and I was off. So I was like, I've got to put both versions in the pattern. So
Yeah.
when you in the pattern, you either get the back quarter friendly version where you just grab a whole stack of them in your background fabric, and then you mix and match and you've got everything you need. And then this one's a two fabric version, one for your paws and one for your background. And then it gives you so bulk cutting for all of that for whatever size you want. And then you add your own scrappy hearts, or you could add scrappy squares. You can fussy cut them. You can do your little fancy intricate FPP blocks. You can have fun and do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It brings to mind Katie, our photographer, and who created kind of our concept this year for the sampler. She does tiny FPP blocks that finish at like 1.5 inches, and they're so
they
beautiful.
blow my mind.
Yeah.
And I think it's I really think everyone needs to look at doing FPP, because I think it must be the best thing for like Alzheimer's or any sort of brain, like the way you've got to think in reverse and kind of back to front and seams and this and that and flipping and thinking in even though most things we do are 2-dimensional in quilting, it is really a third dimension in a way. And it's you really got to, if you don't do it regularly for FPP, I think you really got to think hard.
It's so true. I just remember back to when I was doing very large letters in FPP, and it was so hard. But I was, I was new and young, and I was like, I don't understand this.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a light table. I didn't have I didn't know the window trick. Some of this stuff. So
it's constantly this and this and this and
this.
Your whole.
But I finished it. Like I worked my way through, and yeah, I'm excited to try some more options for sure.
Well, I love with the one thing I love about the Compass sampler is just having all those different blocks, and they look fantastic together. But you can't help but look at them and go, oh wow, that would imagine a whole quilt with that one, or a whole quilt with that one, and then you start thinking, oh, the cut, like it looks fantastic like that, and it's small scale. But then if you had, how could you make the colors go across a whole quilt? And like every one of those blocks, you just think that would look amazing as a full quilt. And then you
Right.
get to ask yourself, would I rotate? Would they all be the same direction? Would I rotate some? It's just endless, endless amounts of quilts you could make from those blocks.
Yeah. I was thinking about that earlier when I was looking at your block. Like, what if you did a full quilt like this? But what if
Yeah.
you turned it on point and put
Yeah.
the center all in the center? You would have kind of a snowflake design,
Yeah. Yeah.
turning
Yeah.
all,
Yeah.
this into like a multi-pointed star or a compass
Yeah.
itself. Like, there's so many fun opportunities
Mm,
just to take a sampler block and run with it.
yeah.
And whether it's adding an extra like asymmetrical piece or sashing or bigger borders, I don't know. There's a lot of
Yeah.
possibilities. So yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm really happy with how things turned out. Let's talk about the planner itself. You
Yes.
mentioned earlier that you are a big list maker, which makes my heart
Oh,
so happy.
I I just love a plan. I cannot tell you how much I love a physical diary or planner. And my husband makes fun of me because he's a digital man. He loves having it all, it's on his laptop, it's on his work computer, it's on his phone, he's got his calendar wherever he needs it at the drop of a
Mhm.
hat. And every now and then we get in trouble because we haven't put things in the digital, because we have a family digital calendar, and we get in a bit of trouble if we haven't put something in there that we should have. But no, I really love writing things down, and obviously I love checking things off because that makes you feel very accomplished. But it's
Yeah.
just almost a little meditative. It's like you just take a moment to just write things down. It helps to imprint it in your brain so you can sort of remember what's going on.
Uh-huh.
Um, and it's such a great resource. If I'm sort of think something happened a certain week, but I'm not really sure, or it's just I find it easier to recall things. It's almost
Mhm.
like I picture in my brain when I wrote it down and where I wrote it, and then I can sort of go and find it. And because
Yeah.
I've just turned 50 a couple of months ago. I'm like, why am I forgetting everything? This is just walking into a room and going, what? Why am I here? It's like, I need to do some more FPP and get this brain going back again. But it's yeah, so this is just gold because I know my whole life's in here,
Yeah.
and I know how to index it and reference it and find it. So it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've had so many customers say the same thing. One lady emailed me and she just wanted to tell me how much she loved using the
Mm,
planner as like her scrapbook diary. Like, she would go back and write
mm.
things that happened each day so that she would have kind of
Yeah.
like that daily memory
Like a journal
of,
kind of. Yeah,
yes, as a
yeah.
journal purpose. And anyway, I thought that was so touching that she uses it that way. And I started finding myself doing that. Like, I would go back and like, oh yeah, this is when
Yeah.
Amelia
Yeah.
accidentally put nail polish everywhere, or
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
but yeah, that fun stuff. So I want to kind of walk through your planner with you, and I would love to hear some of your thoughts on like are there any of our newer pages or some of the features that you like have used in a different way, or share with us what has impacted you. So yeah, other than
Yeah.
just the calendar sections.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the calendar section is fantastic. I always love that month at a glance at the front. I use that all the time. I just find it helps me at a glance realize what's coming up and sort of don't get caught unaware.
Uh-huh.
So that's a big thing for me. And having lots of little sections, I don't necessarily use the sections as they're intended, what their labeling is, but I write a lot through the week, and it just helps me remember things. And like I said, if I have a vague idea of when it happened, I can go back and figure out because I've got these notes written all around the outside of my weekly view. So that's been really handy. I love the resource section at the back. It's
Oh yeah,
fantastic. I really enjoy
thank you.
having that.
I I'm so glad
It's
that
so
we've added some
handy.
extra pages this year.
Oh yeah, yeah, No, it's that's a real winner, and yeah, many times. And I've actually got the little divider that's got the to-do list and so on. I
Oh,
actually mine. I don't often write on it, but it lives permanently here so that I can flick immediately
yeah.
to the reference section because I use it all the time. So that's, and then I've got another. I always keep
Oh,
one here so I can flick
yeah.
to
Yeah, me
the
too.
month that we're in. So yeah, but I'm always, I'm scribbling all over it. I'm doing measurements and whatnot. It's where I do a lot of jotting and rough working outs before I transfer it over to sort of into my making illustrations or writing the document out. So
Hmm.
it's handy, and it's again because it's related to dates. I can look back and see, oh gosh, I've been working on this for like 4 weeks now. I should really have this done, or it's that sort of a thing. So I really love having that kind of, and I suppose it is a little bit like journaling in a way. It's a record of everything that's sort of happened in that week that I can
Yeah.
refer back to if I need to.
Um, Tell me, what's your experience so far with the project section? Do you
Yes,
do you find yourself using that to plan out any projects,
I
quilting
think
or
for
otherwise?
block design, it's really handy. Like I wouldn't try to fit a whole quilt um, on there for me, just because of the way I like to work. But I love to have a reference just there at my cutting table or while I'm sewing of the block layout, and I will often put sizes on it as well. But I mean, with the grid, you've got the little spot for the grid where you can actually draw it in.
Right.
It just really helps. I hate being at the cutting table and like, wait, was that a inch square or was it 3.5? And it's like, it's literally there. And just go, yep, that's. Or if I need to be aware of the direction, like every now, I don't do many patterns where that's an issue, but every now, you're like, oh, I don't want that pattern running this way. I really want it running this way. And that sort of lets I can look at it and it's right there. And it's just so much easier because it's all in the one spot and I can just put it down next to the machine, pick it up, putting it on the cutting table, and I've got it there as a ready reference. Whereas if I just, some people will just print their pattern out and have the paper there, which is fine. But we live in what would you call it? Our climate here where we live in Australia, it's probably similar to Florida. So we always have a ceiling fan on. And I find if I've got paper, it gets moved, it gets blown or whatever. So to actually have the planner there, it's a proper solid, it's not rustling around or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it just stays where I put it. So it's very handy.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Awesome. Um, well, great. Thank you for sharing your experience with the planner. I'm so happy to have you try it out and share your thoughts of it.
Yeah, I
Are
love it.
there
Love it.
are there any of the other accessories that you've tried out that you like or
Well, I do
you
love the
want to?
stickers. It's just fun, It's just always fun to get in there and mark down the birthdays or pattern release day or something like that with a
Hmm.
few extra things. And then if I have leftovers, I'll put them on my mail and things like that. So
I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
I do, and there's so you can buy the individual as well as the hard dividers. The smaller tab stickers are
Hmm.
also really handy because you can just put them wherever you want. Like if you prefer your tabs along the top of the page rather than along the side, or you can have them all fanned out the way you like. I think that's a really great idea too. It just makes everything, it's very customizable,
Great.
however you like your planner to be, you can pretty much guarantee that you can make it happen with this. So that is it's really fun, and it's fun sort of iterating myself through, every time I've had one, I'm like, oh no, that's right, I didn't like that, I want to do it this way this time. And so I just make the change. And then, in 10 years' time, I'm going to have the best the best planner ever, because I'll have finally figured out all the little bits and pieces of how I like it, and then I'll be like, yes, this is it. This is the one
Yeah.
planner to rule them all.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, I really, coming into this and knowing that I kind of had to make a few some changes, I really wanted to have that be first and foremost, that it is still customizable, that people can make the changes with the elements that I'm able to provide so that they can build that planner that they want.
Yes.
And use it the way that we want. And that's, I really wanted to still offer the Monday and the Sunday start dates, because that's such a
Yeah.
big deal. Like half
Yeah.
of our customers are split. Like I can't just get rid of one of those, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And the layout options and, the dividers. Anyway, yeah, I've got some fun things in the works to offer some different designs of things. So
Ooh.
we'll see what I can
Yeah, I look
make
forward to
happen.
that. I look forward. Look forward to
Yeah,
seeing it.
and I do have one thing I would like to show everyone. I am, maybe by the time I get this video up, this will be in the shop, but I'm about ready to release the design book option, which is basically the planner
Oh,
without the calendar. So
yes.
more of an evergreen thing, and it has more pages of the things that we love. So a big
Yeah.
giant planner section, more graph paper, more note paper, all the project planning, 100-day project stuff, all the stuff from the beginning, the goal planning, the reference section, like it's all there, just not the specific calendar
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff. So as another option, that is going to be in the shop, and I'm really excited. I'm
Yeah.
printing this locally to me, for US customers, and then it'll still be able to be printed locally for all international customers as well. And they'll get the same exact thing. So anyway,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
that'll
and
be great. And
the cover this year is going to be a coloring cardstock cover.
oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, with a
Yes.
kind of a quilty design on there, and you can color it however you want. And then for US customers, I'm going to include their choice of the laminated cover that pops on.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, I'm super excited about that. It's a great companion piece, and good
Yeah,
for
that's a
people
great
who find
idea.
us halfway through the year.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So anyway, pretty exciting.
I could get one for my husband to complement his digital calendar.
There you go. Yes, I mean, some people just, it's easier to do the calendaring on the phone, but this still brings in that quilting aspect of your whole
Yeah.
quilting life. Like it is hard to replace that with the digital option.
Oh, yeah.
And I've done
It's
some of that on the
very
iPad,
tactile.
but it's so much easier on paper. So
Oh, for sure.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
well,
No, it's
sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say it is such a tactile craft, so it sort of makes sense that writing on paper is, for many of us, I think it's a real part of the process.
Yeah, and I feel like when I bring in a device or a screen in the middle of me trying to work out the math or choose my color choices, it kind of interrupts my flow. Like having just a book there that I could quickly reference or jot down some notes in, just keeps the juices flowing. And that's not to downplay my phone, like, I'm addicted to it, but
we all love our phones. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. I did want to ask you a little bit about what you're most excited for in this upcoming year, kind of coming back to our theme of, are you headed in the direction that you want to head? The what we're talking about each month when those that are making the samplers submit their photos, you know, how do you feel your direction is taking you this year, and what do you look forward to
That's
on
a
your
very
journey?
deep question, Lindsay. I don't know. It might
And I
be too
didn't give
early
you
in the
any
morning for me.
advance
Yeah.
any advance notice.
No, I'm really enjoying what I do, and I would like to get a few more patterns out this year. I'm a little shocked that it's already May. It's it's a little scary actually. So I feel like I need to get a bit of a wriggle on getting some more patterns done. But I think for me, I'm sort of right in the thick of a very busy household, and sometimes I need to remember that, and but also try and get my routines down so I can work a bit more time into my day to do some more sewing and some more designing and whatnot. So that would be, I would enjoy doing that. Sometimes I feel like if I just, will obviously use my planner a bit better and get everything worked out on what I need to do and look for those little pockets of time, because they're pretty powerful. Again, like your seams, when if you add up a one or two thread discrepancy over a whole block, it makes the difference. But and
Yeah.
same with your time, if you can capture 15-minute blocks throughout your day, they do actually add up, and it's not insignificant when you
No.
put it all together. So got
Yeah.
to harness,
It's so
get
true.
get the lasso around it, and harness
It's
those
true.
little
I mean,
breaks.
when you think about how much we end up just scrolling on our phone trying to
Yes,
decompress,
that's it.
right?
Yeah,
Like so much more effective to do that in your sewing room.
yeah,
Uh
yes.
yeah, no, it's really funny. I just got done meeting with a friend in my quilt guild about a project we're working on, and she mentioned the same exact thing. We had Cheryl Arkeson, if I'm saying that right, Cheryl Arkinson come and give us a lecture earlier this year. And she, she kind of championed this idea of a morning make time where you give yourself 10 to 15 minutes each morning to start your day off
Yeah.
before you get on screens, before you're doing anything else, where you just have that time with a project ready to go and you're diving in just quickly, but having some creative juices flowing like can set the whole tone for the day. And I really want to get back to that. I did that when my son was little. Yeah, like I want to get back into that too. Because
Yes,
yeah, it
yeah,
adds up.
it adds up. Yeah, you think 365 days of 15 minutes, or
Yeah.
even if you do half an hour, that's a lot of time. And it's you can
Mhm.
get a lot done. It's that
Yep.
consistency, I guess. Yeah, that's probably the word I'm looking for. That should be my theme.
Theme for this year. Consistency. Yeah.
Consistency as
Hmm.
well as having direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Agreed. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts. It's been so lovely to chat with you.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see how people make up block of yours and color it up. Our community is so creative. Um,
There's lots of ways they can really, yeah, the colors and the placement of what you put where. I think people can have a lot of fun with it, and really make it their own.
awesome. Well, thank you also for sharing your tips on it. And I look forward to seeing how things go for you this year,
Yeah,
and seeing we'll be sharing more tips from you of how you're using the planner throughout the year. Um, yeah, and good
wonderful.
luck sewing,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Okay.
Yes, thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye bye.